Hello there! Welcome to the second chapter of the Jedi Temple Guard series. In this chapter, we'll be looking into what exactly the Jedi Temple Guards were capable of. We'll be taking a look over their skills, force abilities they use, and a quick glance at their combat style. In chapters 5 and 6, we'll take a much more in-depth look into Jedi Temple Guard combat. For now, let's learn what they could do. Unfortunately, we never really see the Temple Guard do too much within the Star Wars TV shows outside of dueling canon jars. In order to achieve a better understanding of the capabilities of the Temple Guards, we must look elsewhere outside of the Clone Wars and Rebels TV series. In this case, we shall look towards the Star Wars tabletop RPG game, Force and Destiny, not to be confused with the comic Forces of Destiny. There is an information source book for Force and Destiny called Nexus of Power. This particular book lists various Force-sensitive worlds, but also provides information on the Jedi Temple Guards. Within the book, it provides the stats of a Jedi Temple Guard non-player character. This can be used for a Force and Destiny campaign should the GM need a Temple Guard handy. I think there's more to this book than meets the eye. I believe that this gives us a glimpse into the standard abilities of a Jedi Temple Guard during the Clone Wars era. Let's go over the Jedi Temple Guard stat block found within the Nexus of Power book. As you can see, the book lists their ability scores, defenses and thresholds, along with skills, talents, and abilities. When I initially found this in the book, I was elated, yet I had no idea how to interpret it as I was unfamiliar with the rules of Force and Destiny. So I had an experienced Force and Destiny GM help interpret it for me. So let's start with their ability scores. The Jedi Temple Guard are listed of having the following stats: 3 in brawn, 2 in agility, 2 in intellect, 3 in cunning, 3 in willpower, and 2 in presence. The Temple Guard is seen to be average in everything but brawn, cunning, and willpower. However, there might be an error within the book because in order for their Temple Guard to be able to wield the lightsaber pike in the RPG, they require an agility stat of 3. I believe these two numbers got mixed up, so agility should be 3 and brawn should be 2. Now for their defensive stats. The soak value is indicative of the Temple Guard's ability to soak damage to their armor before sustaining injury. Say a Temple Guard gets shot by a blaster pistol and it ends up dealing 5 damage. The Temple Guard would only take 1 damage as 4 of the damage would have been soaked by the robes. Their soak value is considered average or below average, but this doesn't matter too much as they are designed to combat melee units such as Jedi, Sith, or other melee opponents. Next we have their wound threshold and the strain threshold, the former being their ability to sustain physical injury before becoming unconscious, and the latter pertaining to their ability to shrug off physical and mental stresses before becoming incapacitated. Both their wound and strain thresholds are considered above average. Last we have their melee and range defense, each with a rank of 2. This means they can reduce incoming damage, be it melee or ranged, by 2 each. According to the GM to help me understand this, it will take around 4 to 5 shots from a blaster rifle to take down a Temple Guard, but since they have the ability called Reflect paired with melee and range defenses, it will take much more than that to defeat one. Now for their skills. If you look at these skills, these are about what one should expect from a Jedi. Though in order to provide a thorough understanding of these skills, I shall break down how these skills function within an RPG and how it can translate into lore context. The discipline skill relates to one's ability to control themselves. In the context of the RPG, this is required for Force users in order to use their abilities. It is also their ability to control their biological instincts so that they can overcome things where others might panic or have a meltdown. The discipline skill is also used to contest leadership, coercion, and deception checks made against them. This is nothing out of the ordinary for a security unit. Temple Guards also have proficiency with the medicine skill. This would allow them to heal themselves or their allies for a small amount within the RPG. In the context of the Star Wars universe, this medicine skill would most likely translate to first aid skills. This would make sense since the Temple Guards are first responders and in the event of an injury, they would be able to treat wounds. Or at the very least, they could stabilize the injured person until they can get aid from medical professionals. The melee and lightsaber stats are average. What the lightsaber stat means is rather obvious. It pertains to their skill with the lightsaber. However, the proficiency in melee is interesting as this would mean they would be capable of using non-lightsaber melee weapons such as vibroblades, vibrostaffs, electrostaffs, and more. Proficiency in melee could also mean they're adept at unarmed combat, meaning that the Temple Guards could have been trained in a martial art such as Terraskasi, a martial art made for the sole purpose of fighting Jedi and other Force sensitives. It was not uncommon for Jedi to learn hand-to-hand combat should they not have their lightsaber on hand. Though exactly which melee weapons or unarmed martial art they could have been trained in is left up to speculation, as we don't have any definitive answers on the subject. If the Temple Guards were indeed trained in use of non-lightsaber melee weapons, this would have been the result of Sindralic or previous Jedi Battle Masters teaching the Temple Guards how to use these weapons so they could become better familiarized with them. This would allow them to use these weapons if need be, but also give them an understanding on how to fight against these weapons. The perception skill shows that the Temple Guards are trained to keep an eye on their surroundings. This allows them to notice concealed or inconspicuous signs of danger. The perception skill also allows them to better seek out a person or an item that they are actively looking for. For someone who expects danger on a regular basis, the perception skill is needed to notice such dangers in the Force and Destiny RPG. And last, we have the vigilance skill. This is a character's ability to be prepared for a danger at a moment's notice. In the event of combat, vigilance is used to calculate initiative within the RPG, meaning that Temple Guards can get a bonus to initiative through their vigilance skill, which gives them better odds of being able to act first. Everything we have seen thus far with their list of skills is about what one could expect from any form of security. They're keeping aware of their surroundings, prepared for danger at a moment's notice, can provide first aid, and are trained in a variety of weapons. Pair this with the mental and emotional discipline of a Jedi, you have a unit that is prepared for just about anything you throw at them. Now let's move on to their talents. The adversary talent upgrades the difficulty of any combat check targeting the character that has a talent once with each rank of adversary. So say you fire a blaster pistol at the Temple Guard twice. The first shot would have a harder time landing due to the increased difficulty check. If the Temple Guards had an adversary rank of 2, both shots from the pistol would have an increased difficulty check. This should give you an idea of how adversary works. Force rating is a passive talent that shows how powerful the unit is with the Force. In the context of the RPG, the Temple Guards will have a high success rate of using Force abilities and have a good chance to upgrade the effects of those abilities. The parry and reflect abilities are the Temple Guards' active talents. These abilities allow them to reduce incoming damage at the cost of straining themselves. Parry will reduce damage from incoming melee attacks, while reflect will reduce damage from incoming ranged attacks. Their melee and ranged defenses are excellent, as the parry rating is equal to that of an Imperial Royal Guard. However, unlike the Imperial Royal Guard, the Temple Guard can reflect blaster bolts. And due to their high strain threshold, which is most likely a result of rigorous training, they can parry and reflect attacks a good deal of times before wearing themselves out. But if you factor in their ability to replenish their strain threshold while in combat, the Jedi Temple Guards can persevere for a great amount of time. As for the final note on the Temple Guard's capabilities, we have the Force ability, Bind. Through Force Bind, a Temple Guard can hold a person in place. Should that person take any actions while under the effects of Force Bind, they can end up straining themselves and can possibly incapacitate themselves through the sheer amount of stress of trying to move. According to the book, this ability is not limited to being used on one person at a time. The Temple Guards can choose to apply the effects of Force Bind on more than one target, assuming they have the proper resources. This is an excellent ability for subduing hostile units within a relatively harmless way. Though, this is not the only Force ability Temple Guards could use. It's just restricted for balance purposes in the RPG. Temple Guards would have also known basic Force abilities such as Force Push, Force Pull, Force Speed, Telekinesis, Mind Trick, and Force Stun. But there is one basic Force ability that Temple Guards appear to be heavily trained in, Force Sight. Force Sight is the ability to see without actually using one's eyes. The best way I think it can be described is as a form of sixth sense, where one can feel the Force flowing around objects, living beings, and other things in the general vicinity. It's basically Force-based echolocation, only instead of using sound waves to see what's around you, you're using the Force. This would make up for their limited field of vision, as the Temple Guard's mask cuts off their peripheral vision. Instead, the Temple Guard will have to rely more on the Force to guide them, thus displaying their utmost faith in the Force. By relying on the Force to guide them through the temple, they could pick up on hidden intruders or objects that mundane vision would otherwise miss.
Your eyes can deceive you, don't trust them.
This concludes this chapter of the Temple Guard series. Join me next time for Chapter 3, the equipment of the Jedi Temple Guard. Goodbye, and may the Force be with you.